Okay, so now the big news, the big political news the last basically 24 hours is that Trump is picking on all the homeless people in Washington, D.C. Okay? So, but this is what all politicians, they all do the same thing. This is the same thing every time, whether it's Obama, Trump, but every time they do, it's always presented as though it's some new story. See, this is the thing about what you need to know about the news. When they talk about the news, the word news implies new. And that there's something new going on. Well, and this is not new. These institutions of power have always only, first and foremost, gone after those most vulnerable throughout history. Even the Bible. Read the Bible. That's what the whole book of Exodus is about, this very thing. They went after the most vulnerable people, the poor, in the book of Exodus. Sodom and Gomorrah, the same thing. Sodom, neglected the needs of the poor while they lived in, comfort and ease and luxury and debauchery. And the end result of all of these stories is always the same. The fall of an empire. The book of Exodus is about the fall of an empire. The empire of Egypt fell. And according to the Bible, is because of that. It's the same fucking story every time. And so now Trump is publicly, stirring up a witch hunt to go after all the homeless people in Washington, D.C. Well, if it had been Obama that did that back in, 2014 or whatever, or 2015, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's Obama that does that. They're all the same. That's what they always do. Which is why I go on, about this all the time. Ramsey Paul just put out a video celebrating it. All these people, they always celebrate it. No one ever challenges it. Like, well, wait a second. Is this the right thing to do? Right? Like, shouldn't Trump be draining the swamp, removing all the swamp creatures from positions of power first? I mean, if homelessness is really what everybody says it is, and it's all these vagrants that are they're guilty of sin. They're just, all these homeless people, they're just sinners guilty of sin that must be punished. Yeah. If all this is true, well, okay, but aren't these swamp creatures that hold all the positions of power, aren't they guilty of a greater sin than the homeless? Well, why not go for the bigger problem? When taking an inventory, let's say you run a business. See, this is where Trump is starting to fail. He better be able to pull a rabbit out of his magic ass soon, because it's already, this is the sign of failure right here. So this better be a 5D chess move and not exactly what it appears to be. But again, it's no different than any other. Everybody's the same. nobody has ever stood up in defense of the homeless. So for somebody to be like, see, I told you Trump was just going to, well, yeah, wait, so you've been defending the homeless all these years, and now that Trump is doing this, now it's a gotcha moment for you, and you're just going to go tell everybody, see, I told you Trump is evil. But when did you ever do anything to stand up against any of this shit? What Trump is doing with the homeless allegedly is no different than any and every other fucking president and any and every other leader and any and every other person in a position of power. They all do this all the time. And your society, all they ever do is always celebrate it as though it's some great achievement. Nobody ever questions this. That's why these people always get away with it every single time, because none of you people ever stop and question it. Wait, what is going on here? If we have all these swamp creatures that have a stranglehold on all positions of power in the U.S., and Trump keeps promising he's going to remove all these swamp creatures, well, and he hasn't come through on his promise at all, yet he's parading about as though this is some great achievement that he's removing all the homeless people from Washington, D.C., the streets. What? I mean, what is this? What about all the swamp? I thought removing the swamp creatures that have a stranglehold on all the positions of power is the big selling point. So what's up with this sudden change all of a sudden? What is that going to do but feed the swamp creatures? The swamp creatures love this story that Trump is going after the homeless. This is a victory for the swamp creatures. But anyways, it didn't matter if it was Trump that got into office, or I guarantee you if Kamala was in office, she'd be doing the same thing, only it would be all the white homeless people. And if Hillary Clinton had gotten in office in 2016, it would have been the same thing, only the homeless males. If they're homeless females, we need to protect them. But if all the homeless males need to be rounded up, all the homeless males that occupy the streets of Washington, D.C. must be rounded up. It's a different flavor of the same old fucking shit stew. Shit sandwich. They're just putting ranch instead of Thousand Island dressing. And so, unfortunately, here we go again. But is it a surprise to me? No. This is what I've been warning people since 2007. This is that, dude, this shit's coming, bro. First they came for the homeless and nobody said anything. Well, that's how it all starts, man. And so, yeah. And Ramsey Paul celebrated this. And then you have fake liberals that are, with their fake outrage, that are pretending that they're outraged by this, but they're not. They love it just as much. All these people, they all love this. Yeah. There isn't anybody that's genuinely standing up and questioning any of this. And whatever few there are, they're just small channels with 20 subscribers that nobody listens to. Because everybody wants to listen to Ramsey Paul and Richie from Boston and Crow House and Stephen Crowder. These guys, they all work for the same club that you're not in. All of them do. And so they say the same thing in different ways. They speak the truth with a lying tongue, no matter what they're speaking the truth about or lying about. It's always speaking the truth with a lying tongue, no matter what it is. And they all work for the same swamp creatures. Whether it's Tucker Carlson or Don Lemon or Steven Crowder or Crow House or, Styx Hexenhammer fucking, Vosh, or they all work for the same club that beats you over the fucking head all day, every day. And they always come out with these grandiose reports of how, oh my gosh, something is happening this time. Look, Trump is removing all the homeless people from the streets of Washington, D.C. What an outrage. Or look, Trump is removing all the homeless. What a victory. And it's always the homeless that are victimized. Meanwhile, their suffering goes completely ignored because Steven Crowder is being censored and he really needs your help. Steven Crowder is a victim of censorship and you need to help him. Anyways, yeah. So this is the big news story. Homelessness has become the big news story of the flavor of the day news story. Now, when it starts to become the flavor of the month and flavor of the year, then that's when you better pack up your shit and head to the hills. Because if you think because you're not homeless, you're somehow special and are going to be treated with special treatment, you're going to be one of the first ones that they fucking take out, man. The homeless is just a primer for what they have in store for everyone else. And again, this is what I have been saying since 2007 and 2008 and nonstop. From then until this very day right here. First they came for the homeless, but I wasn't homeless, so I didn't say anything. You know how that story ends, don't you? If you don't know how that story ends, you might want to look it up because it's in everything. It's in the Bible. It's in all fucking history. Whether it's the Bible or it's the history of the Roman Empire or the history of the Greek Empire or the history of the Egyptian Empire. It always starts there. First they came for the homeless. So yeah, do your research. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. See you, boys.